Time for Ask the Mayor on KWBE, our Thursday morning visit with Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan. Haven't seen you for a while. I guess we had the county last week, so
yes.
And we're kind of one of those 4 or 5 Monday weeks, so we didn't have a council meeting last time.
Right, we didn't have a council meeting because it was March 31st. So it's been a little bit.
Next week, 6 o'clock, not 7 o'clock.
That's correct.
Yeah.
6 o'clock.
Going to have to remind that. I'll show up an hour late, and I'll look like a fool when I walk in there. So.
Well, we'll let you show up late. No problem.
All right. Council meetings have moved to 6 p.m., and that's the case next Monday night. Might talk about that in just a little bit toward the end of the program, if there's any big items coming up on that agenda there. But one thing that is coming up at the end of this month is kind of snuck up on me. I noticed Jason Moore, your street superintendent, has information out on the website with the help of your web people that do that work. Clean City event comes up.
April 28th, 29th, and 30th. Mm-hmm. And I would urge everybody to go to the website because they got a lot of good instructions. I think Amanda did a great job helping Jason out on all the items and the rules and the regulations, what they will take and what they won't take. If I'm not mistaken, you do need to register online. People might ask, why is that? Because that actually coincides with the software that tells people where to go.
I see.
And so if you don't register and you put something out, it will not be picked up. So it's kind of like, if you don't, there's this is a great program. I think it saves a lot of, I want to say, junk going out into the county that just gets rolled off into the ditch. So it's a great service, but we do have, a number of rules and regulations to make sure that it's a good opportunity. In other words, one of the things that I think they've done, and I think it works really well, is they've tried to coincide on the days that you have your trash day. That's when your item gets picked out, either Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. They don't do it Thursday, Friday. But they're not looking for trash. They're looking for large appliances. They're looking for furniture, old carpet, maybe in old lawnmowers, exercise equipments, those type of things that, typically are hard to get rid of, but they're larger items and they're not the daily trash. Mattresses will have another dumpster set out for those where you can take care of your own mattress. That's kind of twofold. Mattresses are hard to handle. Never try to move them up and down the stairs. And number two, just from a health and safety perspective, we just allow, you take care of your mattress, but we'll provide a roll-off, I believe, out at the landfill site.
Okay. Just to clarify on registration, say somebody's not tech savvy or not have the capability to register online, would they still be able to call or maybe come in and just say, put me down? Or
I would make a call.
Okay.
See if somebody can help you through that.
Okay. All right. Have plenty of time to do that, though, almost a month.
Right.
Before that.
But it's a good heads up now.
Yeah, but don't wait till the last second is kind of the best thing.
That is exactly right.
Yeah, okay. I had not driven out there in just the past few days, but progress regarding new landfill construction. Any word on that? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I went to they call them OACs, but it's a time to sit down with the contractor and Burns and Mack's construction administrator. Tobias and I sat down through one of those meetings just about a week ago, and things are looking really, really good. The dirt process is going well, and I think they're on target for that roughly end of October to be finished. We're building the new buildings and scale and those type of things. I think those might be a little bit behind the dump the landfill being completed, and I think it's going to be probably no later than middle part of November.
I see.
So yeah, things are going well.
We had that one rain which we very well needed, about a half inch the other day, or a little bit less than that. I don't know if that slows up things or not.
Well, that was interesting because there was a little bit of conversation about that. If anything, it helped because that kept the dirt a little bit more moist and the quality of the dirt was better.
I see.
Didn't all dry out and get that real kind of like a, what do you want to call it, wispy dust type of dirt.
Dust flying around.
Yeah, so they were happy with that.
Yeah. And all the big equipment moving out there does create a little bit of disturbance as far as dust when it gets real dry like that. But,
it does.
It does. Interesting to watch the process, though, out there. Just kind of can see it from the road a little bit, but interesting. A multi-month project, though.
A multi-month project, and I'll just go back a little bit. I used the wrong terminology when I said dump because on a $13 million project, it really deserves the title of a landfill.
Yeah. It's not like you just dug a hole and you threw stuff in and covered it up. And
that's right.
Thing. So, yeah, they go by different terminology today.
And rules.
Yeah. It's like a MST or solid waste something or another. It's
MSW. I don't know
MSW.
Yeah. And
what does that stand for?
Oh gosh, I used to know, but
solid waste is the last two one, but the other letter I can't remember. Oh well.
Well, that's because we're both the same age.
Yeah. Of course, C and D, I know that, construction and demolition, but anyway, we'll leave that as it is. A couple of events coming up just as reminders. Prayer breakfast next Tuesday morning, I think that is. Yep. That'll be at the Vintage venue. That usually starts, around 6 o'clock, and kind of a nice event. Have a speaker from the University of Nebraska, I believe.
Correct. Yep, from the athletic department.
So tickets going well. Have you heard anything on that? Or?
I don't hear much. I know that Terry Doyle and Ted Fairbanks and Gary Barnard spearhead that, and along with the tickets. Again, the mayor's prayer breakfast is something I think is really, really a good thing to do. It is not because the mayor's prayer breakfast, you think it's associated with the city, but it's not. There's no city funds that go into that. But I think it's an opportunity that we can just give thanks for all the wonderful things in our lives.
All right. Next Tuesday morning, 6 a.m. at Vintage Venue. Also coming up, I guess it's on that same day at 6 p.m., and this is at the School Administration Building Boardroom. Beatrice Police are hosting a Community Watch Meeting. I know several years ago there was that trend of communities going to neighborhood watch programs, trying to get people to look out for each other, help out police, kind of a cooperative effort. Have to kind of wait to see what this is, but I assume it's something along that same order.
Correct. It is. It is really trying to, make sure that you take care of your neighbors, take a look, and, the old saying, I think, was, if you see something, say something. And I think it's to generate how to kind of look out for everybody in your particular neighborhood. Yeah.
Sometimes people in the past just windshield view of it, maybe a little reluctant to report something because it might be something their neighbor is doing or something. But today, it's not, you don't have to give your name. You just kind of name the problem you see, and police will check into it. So
Absolutely.
it's not like you're really putting yourself out there for a big risk or anything. So.
No. And so, I think it's a great opportunity, and I would urge people to go and see what it's all about, and how you can spearhead a community watch group in your neighborhood.
That'll be at the School Administration Building Boardroom Tuesday at 6 p.m. Community Watch Meeting with Beatrice Police there. I went by there Monday when they were starting the demolition, and then Tuesday at the former Lincoln Elementary School, which I guess we should get used to calling Heritage Heights here pretty soon because that's what it will be. But that is a pretty sturdy building, but it's coming down chunk by chunk there.
It is. And that's, I'm amazed at, and we'll talk about Dempsters here, I'm sure. But if you look at some of the buildings and how they were built to last.
Yeah.
I know when we took Adams Hall down at the college, I know, we had some bids and people thought, well, this won't take long. But when you put the brick and the steel and the things that are put together for a building that's 60 years old like Lincoln, it's going to take a little while.
Yeah.
And I think I drove by there Wednesday, and it looked like they were making pretty good headway on the north third. There's a pretty good pile of rubble that they need to haul off. They'll hopefully be done with that one here around probably another week. At that point in time, we can go from the Lincoln School site to Heritage Heights, which is going to be really a very nice planned community neighborhood.
I see. As I was watching the backhoe do the first strikes of the building on that Monday, you were mentioning about how well they were built, to last a long time, and those buildings have been here since the mid-1950s, I think, used as school buildings. But you looked at that bucket in that big machine, you thought, that'd tear through it pretty easy, but it would hit the building and thing wouldn't even move for a while. But then a few chunks would come down and you start tearing piece by piece. But it was, it's not as easy as it looks, I don't think.
No, it is not. I'll be honest, as the little boy comes out and you'd love to be in that track hoe taking a whack at it. But and they're always fun to watch. I do know they have fence up around it to protect the area, and I'm sure that Fossilers will get that down and it'll be ready to move on to the next step.
All of that rubble then gets hauled to the C&D site, is that right?
That is correct. Okay. The first step, and some people thought we were starting deconstruction, but we weren't, but it was getting rid of asbestos.
I see.
And now that we've got rid of asbestos, we've able to take it to C&D.
Yeah. The big building at Paddock Lane, that one's already, the one that was taken down, that's done. I think they were hauling off portables, too, and those are out of
That's right. Yeah. Now, there was some confusion there. The school actually sold those buildings, so the city didn't own those. And so the person taking them down was responsible. I know there was some trash that got on, and we talked to him as well and got that taken care of. And they're in the middle of getting that hauled off, and that should be hauled off before we come along and demo the building.
We did just get a question in on the Lincoln School. They were asking what remediations were done prior to the demolition getting started. It would have been, what, asbestos or anything else? Or?
Asbestos, yes. Okay. We went through the entire building. We had a quote for both buildings to take all of the asbestos out of it and anything type of hazardous material. And what really was in there was asbestos. You have that around, maybe some piping, and of course in that day and age you have the tile. All of that had to be removed. All of it had to be bagged. And all that had taken to the our MSW site and actually buried, and that process is monitored by the company that's certified to take out the asbestos.
So that's a situation where the guys or employees come in suits and coverings and everything. I mean, it's not just, you don't just walk in and start dumping it in a bag. There's a process and procedure.
There is, and there's only about 3 or 4 people that do that. I mean, companies that do that. So they're highly trained. They know what they're doing, and they do a good job.
All right. Back with more on Ask the Mayor in just a moment on KWBE. Back on Ask the Mayor with Mayor Bob Morgan today. I have a special council meeting coming up. It's a noontime meeting on April 14th, is that right?
It's the 14th,
14th,
yes.
Okay. And Stone Hollow Brewing is, it's a special permit?
It's a special, it's the alcohol permit. I'm not sure the circumstances behind it, whether it's a new manager or a new person buying Stone Hollow. We always have to give proper notice, and that didn't make it for the April 7th meeting. And as you move forward, the April 21st meeting, because that's, as late as it could possibly be, that probably is going to be too late for the things to transpire at Stone Hollow. So we're going to have just a special council meeting to approve the liquor license changes. Probably takes 5 minutes, but it really helps out a business, and I think that's where we want to be, is pro-business.
And you make the recommendation as a council, and then the State Liquor Commission makes the final.
That is correct. And so there has to be time for us to get the paperwork to the state, and then the state to make their decision and get it back to Stone Hollow.
All right. I don't think since the Dempster fire, were you in after that?
What's that?
On Ask the Mayor after that. I didn't think so, because we hadn't really talked about it in that.
Timing was, it was that Friday before last week where...
it was Eric, right after the show you were in.
Yeah.
And I was gone too.
That's
when the fire took place. But the question is on that, with that missing center part gone, and then actually a little bit to the north of there too, there was a part of that structure is now demolished. Question has arisen about does this change at all the timetable for dealing with the entire property? Does it benefit the city? Does it actually make things a little bit harder as you try to address that entire property?
Sure. I can try to answer a number of questions that swirled around after that fire.
A lot of them online, I would imagine.
I would imagine, yes. Well, first of all, it certainly didn't help us. It didn't put us in a good position. That's a major undertaking. Funny, I don't know whether it's funny, but it's just the way it was. We actually still don't own one parcel, so that holds us up on a lot of the cleanup. But the building that was on fire actually went to the foreclosure sale on last Wednesday. And it's kind of strange when you go in and buy a building for the taxes that's had a fire. But again, we figure we need to get that eyesore down somehow in in the sort of foreseeable future. The question I get a lot is, does this speed things up? And we're probably not at the point where we really know that yet. I always said that, the broken window building looked better than the fire building.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we have to figure out, is it, how much did it damage the other buildings? I was able to kind of view the buildings to the north and the south of that middle section, and they look substantially okay. Then once we figure that out, we have to figure out, where do you come up with, I don't know, $2 or $3 million to tear it down? I think that it certainly did not put us in a better spot. I think that was one of our, we didn't even anticipate that. But I think what it really did was put us in a tough spot to try to figure out how to take that building down in a reasonable amount of time to help the entrance driving into the community. And that's just going to be tough. There's a lot of unknowns yet, too. In that particular building, we need to do, of course, the abatement of asbestos. The first step, though, will be making sure that the building is in structurally sound condition before we send somebody in. One of the things people may or may not know, you'll see the trash kind of hanging around there, the bricks and the steel and those type of things. Because there's a fire, whether it's a city building or your house building or whatever it might be, we have to wait 30 days to haul all of the rubble to either the landfill or to the C&D site, because embers, they can flare up even after 29 days. And the last thing we need is a landfill fire. And so you'll see some inactivity for a while with some of the trash.
Does the investigation of the incident, does that cause a delay too? Because it was determined that it was an incendiary type cause, but I don't know if anyone has been held responsible for it, but does that hold you up at all in the process?
Well, I don't think so. I think one of the things that people may or may not know, it actually started in a semi-trailer in the back of the building. That got really, really hot, that then spread up to the second floor of that center part of the building. It was, it had to be incendiary. I think the fire investigation is still open. I think because of the heat of the fire, it was probably pretty tough to figure out exactly how it started other than by human means.
Since the fire, have there been any other discussions with the Department of Environment and Energy or EPA regarding, how this affects things, or whether they be informal or actual meetings? Or
Sure,
things?
Absolutely. Yeah. NDEE was down, looked at the site, and looked at the rubble that we pulled out and told us what we need to take to the MSW site and what we need to go to C&D site, so we're fine there. Health and Civil Services were down at the same time and looked at the site, and there's no issues there. The EPA came. We contacted the EPA right away, of course, on Saturday morning. The EPA sent, for lack of a better term, an EPA cop or police officer.
Inspector or whatever.
Whatever he is. And they were also on site, and we have no issues there as well. It was kind of interesting. They just said, when a building burns like that, we come out and double check everything. And we didn't even know there was EPA police officers, but he spent some time, and they're going to go back and write a report. And of course, we haven't got the reports back, but from that standpoint, everything's fine.
On the potential for brownfields grant support, anything new there? What's the process on that?
We're still waiting for our grants that we put in. That covers the back half of the property. It doesn't cover this. That was a grant we asked for about $3.1 million. Unfortunately, we can't take that money and just move it to the front of the building because we didn't own it when it was grant time. We'll be applying for a grant to help take this one down. And we'll know more about the timeline as it goes on. But I think, what it really did is put us in a position to figure out how can we do this. at the least amount of impact on funds.
Yeah.
But I think some of the interesting things that I learned from this experience is, number one, we're a town of 12,500 and we have our own fire department. That is a blessing.
Yeah.
Having a professional fire department is one of those things that this fire could have been a lot worse. The second thing is you look at equipment, and we have an aerial truck. Without that aerial truck and without the aerial truck coming from Fairbury, it would have been very difficult to get this fire out. And so sometimes you look at a $500,000 or $1 million rig that sits in the bay for a while, but then you realize when you need one, you need one.
Yeah.
And so the firefighters were very professional. They got a lot done. Having to stand watch. I thought it was amazing as they were cleaning up the site, even on Monday when they would pull, as we were destroying the back building, as you pull up some rubble and oxygen hits the fire, then you have another flare up. So they did a really good job. It was a hot fire. It was a bad fire. I think at one point in time they were pouring on about 4,000 gallons a minute.
Wow.
That's a lot.
And the other thing, too, with the round-the-clock supervision of the site, too, it also brings to mind, again, the importance of that mutual aid association.
Yes.
We have other departments able to help you out, like Fairbury, but, Beatrice Rural, too, and others.
That's right.
If you needed, those resources
they were there.
are
Yeah,
there.
those resources were there. So, we're just glad that, first of all, it was an abandoned building. Second of all, nobody was inside and got hurt. And third of all, we didn't have any firefighters get hurt. So.
All right. Back to wrap up Ask the Mayor in just a moment. We have about a couple minutes left here on Ask the Mayor today with Mayor Bob Morgan. A couple of things to touch on just briefly as we wrap up here. The police chief process with interim police chief Jay Murphy, and still looking to go through that process, hire the full-time position.
Correct.
Where do you stand on that?
I believe it's a civil service position, and I believe it's probably at that civil service level. We have a civil service commission. I think it's at that commission point right now.
Okay, all right. Applications yet on that or not?
I have not checked.
I haven't, hadn't heard, but I didn't know if there were, because I know that's something you have to, open up to.
We do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's part of the civil service process.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I was driving by not far from the high school the other day and saw some construction work going on at 26th and Scott, those new homes that are being built there. So that's going along pretty well.
That's going along. Looks like it's pretty well going.
Yeah.
I mean, I think some people said, boy, are they going to get moving on it? But you got to remember, cold weather and wind probably isn't the best thing. But they're starting the framework, and be a nice community when it's done right there.
Yeah, and the amount of earth work that was done there too, and I think it has its own holding areas too for water, if I remember right.
Yes,
too. So
yes. One of the things that we put in place, I want to say 15 years ago, we took a look at what do you do with runoff water, and we've really seriously said we don't want other issues. So the city has requirements that we have to live by when we do Heritage Heights, and they do too. So we have detention ponds to take care of runoff.
Yeah. Anytime you build a lot more concrete, more runoff, and it changes the pattern too.
It does.
It can change the pattern.
And
so that's when you start seeing these ponding areas show up in neighborhoods when you get these 2-3 inch rainfalls that nowhere for it to go quickly enough.
And we want to make sure we're friendly to the neighbors.
Okay. Monday night council meeting, 6 p.m.
6 p.m.
Remember, I'll write it down.
Right. It's a little bit of a change.
Yeah.
Change is sometimes hard, but change is sometimes good.
A long time coming change. It's been suggested before, and you finally got it done here in the council. So that's great. So, Bob, thanks very much for being in.